I just hit the record button. Sorry. So I'm talking to me there. I started this back in 2018, and so I've been doing it for almost 5 years now. They're all herbal teas, and what makes it a little different is because I source almost everything locally. Almost everything comes from within 200 miles. There's about a dozen organic farmers that I work with, and I do the foraging for the teas. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of sort of the story of what got me here, and I'm going to give you a tour of the kitchen where I work and at the Good Acre. But I don't want this to be a speech, so I hope you have questions. And don't hold your questions to the end. As I'm going along, if something jumps in your mind, just raise your hand and let me know. Love to go on tangents. So for me, well-written teas is bringing together several aspects of my life. I've always had, like probably most of you, a passion for nature and the outdoors. It's always been solace and my joy, my celebration, my comfort, my free time. That's what my family did growing up. It's camping and being in the outdoors. And I was born, raised in Iowa, in a small farm town. Not on a farm. My grandparents both had farms, but my parents were a generation where they wanted to get off the farm. So grew up in a small town, but raised by parents who really taught me love my fingers in the dirt. And when you grow up in those small farm communities, you really can't help but develop an understanding of the farming culture. And I had, my grandmother's farm, my grandparents were very into plants, while my grandma's was very into medicinal plants. So it's just always sort of been a piece of what I've done. And health and healing has always been something, a passion of mine too. So it's merging those together. Before I started this, I was working in public health at the university. I went there for grad school and just kept working there for many years. Then after I had a couple of kids, I decided, and I had the opportunity to stay home with them, so I took several years off of the workforce. And then it was necessitated me getting back to work, doing something. Spent about probably 2.5 years figuring out what that something was. But for me, this really, like I said, brings together for me the piece of nature I give, and it gives me a real sense of community too. And I feel like I'm doing my part to move the world in the direction where I hope it goes. So I know you guys are all herbalists and very into herbs, and that's definitely a piece of what brought me here too. But probably the biggest driver for me in this is farming. In the sense of growing up so immersed in that farming culture and just living through the 80s farm crisis. I don't know if any of you are, a couple of you are old enough to sort of remember, that was a really traumatic several years. Talk more about that if anyone's interested, but that had such an impact on me. So I really want to do something where I was promoting sustainable organic farming. So it took me a long time to figure out how to source all my herbs and how to grow up to the point where it was a sustainable business. I do forage some of the pieces, but I forage less. I should say, I forage a smaller diversity of things for my teas than when I first started. Because trying to keep up with the demand for foraging is, you guys are foragers, you know you have to spend a lot of time before you get enough to make a cup of tea, right? But a big part of my draw was providing livelihood for these organic, sustainable, regenerative farmers. So I try and buy as much as I can from them. So I used to forage a lot of the nettle for my teas, but now I have 3 farmers who have stands of nettle growing on their farms. So it's more in line with what I want to do, paying them for harvesting the nettle for me rather than going out and foraging. But still, yeah.
Do any farmers actually farm the woods? You know what I mean? Not plow, grow crops under a tree canopy. You know, if you had a shade-loving herb you wanted, you wouldn't want to know.
Right.
I
don't. None of my farmers are growing. I mean, some have their plots near the edge, so they're getting partial shade
Like
during
wood
the day.
nettle.
But yeah, like wood nettle. But some do have like for the stands of nettle, some do have stands of nettle that are kind of going into the woods, and that's where they gather some of it. So there's some of that, but not a whole lot. It's a whole lot harder for them to harvest in there too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's not much. Yeah, so do less foraging for that reason. So when my first cup of tea I sold in spring of 2018. And I will say that 2.5 years where I figured out when here's more people. No. Welcome. Come on in. Start talking. So I was that sort of 2.5 years that I spent figuring out what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to pull in nature, and I knew I wanted to have time outside. I knew I wanted to get back to the farming community. I knew I wanted to pursue something where I was in charge of my time. And so trying to sort of bring all these pieces together, it was really messy, and there was a lot of self-doubt and a lot of frustration. Way too many informational interviews with people and almost taking the job back in academia again. So it was a really bumpy road to, it was not a smooth process. But so in 2018 is when I sold my first bag of tea, and that was at the Linden Hills Farmers Market. I've been so excited. I'm like, you're actually buying this? And then I spent the next couple years doing quite a few farmers markets. By the end of my first summer, I was doing Linden Hills Farmers Market a lot and some other metro ones. I had bopped into the Mill City one. I was lucky enough to get in there twice. That's one that's kind of harder to get your product in there. It's the only one I do now because it's a really good fit for my product, and I have my community there too. Like the other people that are there, and I really love it. But that first season, when I got to be there twice, I was sort of the outskirts. If you guys remember, Mill City used to extend up Chicago Avenue for like the really unlucky vendors around Chicago Avenue. So I got to be in Chicago Avenue a couple times, and I was lucky enough that when I was there, someone came up to me, a guy came up to me, and we were talking for a while. You kind of get a couple different customers at farmers markets. You get people that politely look at your stuff, they're not interested, and they say, "Oh, I'll be back." And then you get people that, it's amazing the amount of people that don't see that there's a human being standing behind the table, and they'll just like talk about your product, and you're right there. Maybe not the best of terms are talking about the product, like, "Oh, I would never drink this stuff." Like, "Oh, who likes tea?" Okay, good. It's people that really want to do. It's really fun with people that stand there for like 15 minutes and a little chat. And so this guy was really chatting, and he said, "I know this is, this is only the second time I've seen you here, but I am a chef at this local coffee shop, and we'd love to have your tea there." It was Northern Coffee Works. And I was kind of a little bit deer in your lights. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but we'll figure it out. And he kind of helped me through it. And so that was my start of getting my first store. So when you sell products in the state of Minnesota, a lot of you probably know this, but you can make stuff out of your own house under the cottage food law in Minnesota. And farmers market with direct to consumer. But if you're going to sell anything to a retail outlet or something else, you can't make it out of your house. You have to make it out of a commercial kitchen. So I knew that that's what I needed to do. So I shopped around the Twin Cities for different commercial kitchens, and there's a real wide variety out there. And I ended up here, and I haven't ever been in any other kitchen. This is great. The Good Acre is a cool space. The Good Acre is a nonprofit organization, and they do many different things. They're a warehouse for farmers, and most of the farmers, and they also are a distributor, and most of the farmers are farmers who don't have easy access to warehousing and distribution. So it's a lot of young farmers or a lot of farmers that have English as their second language and maybe have some communication issues. The Good Acre is just so supportive of all kinds of all new farmers and people moving to Minnesota. So they warehouse and they distribute, and they have a great program where they have a lot of produce that's here goes to schools. They even have a training program here where they teach staff in school kitchens how to cook for large quantities for students, large quantities of real food. Not, anyone who's been in schools know that many schools now it's like pull this plastic off and that's the food that can't even make this. But so the Good Acre is doing that. The Good Acre does a lot of advocacy at the Capitol too for farmers and for climate issues. And there's probably about 25 of us who work out of this kitchen here. And they host events. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you around, show you the kitchen, show you the warehouse, and then we'll come back here too. So you can feel free to bring your tea or your snacks with you as we go through. No one else is here, so we can I think we have one other. Yeah.
Do you dry your herbs here?
Ooh, it's a good question. So in the beginning when I first started, I was drying almost all of my herbs here. And any of you that have dried herbs can know how time consuming that is, how long it can take, and how expensive it is. Because I have to rent space here, and the way it was set up, I would have to rent the dryers for 36 hours or whatever long the herb was taking to dry, and that got really expensive. So now I would say about 75 of my herbs come to me already dried. I've worked with my farmers in helping some of them build drying shipping containers, and some of them change their greenhouses after the greenhouse season is done, how to turn it more into an herb drying little factory. So it's been really great to work with my farmers to build that, so to build their capacity. And it's been super satisfying because some of my farmers now have branched out. I've connected them with other makers, so they have a lot more people that are buying from them now. So it's super good. Yeah. You'll see, we'll start by going to the kitchen, and you can see where I do some of my drawing.
Drying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Wow.
Are you in there? Does it look like? Okay.
Yeah, so this is my commercial kitchen, and there's two kitchens, kitchen A and kitchen B. We're standing in kitchen A right now. This is one I always rent. There can be two businesses in here at the same time. You can have up to a couple of people if you want, but so you have this whole space in your kitchen A. You have that smaller space in there in kitchen B. The nice thing about kitchen B is you have a huge kettle. So some makers like hot sauce makers. We have some oatmeal, some simple syrups. There's a huge kettle you can see over there. And behind you, you see two dehydrators. Oh, nice. Yeah, so that you're showing off is mine. I've had that for a little over a year now. Yeah, there was pine in there. I was just pulling out actually before you guys have got here. Stop when you're done today. So yes, I just had pine drying in there. The Good Acre just bought this one that just about 2 weeks ago they brought it in. The big oven over there is the big combi oven, and that's where I used to do some dehydrating. It doesn't really have a dehydration setting, but I could set it to whatever temperature I wanted and set a constant airflow. So it worked pretty well, but this works 1,000 times better for dehydrating. This is great, but I wish it was like 6 degrees Celsius.
How much herbs do you get? It doesn't look that big.
It's not. Yeah, the nice thing is I can just have running costs. So when I have something of it, so some of my, so for example, I have ginger and turmeric in one of my teas, ginger and turmeric and one of them. And that I do all the drying. Farmer Melissa, down like in Minnesota, it just doesn't work for you. It's bulkier to dry. It's a lot more processing involved, especially for the leaves, because I use the leaves and I use the root. So when that harvest comes in, I'm in here like every day, almost every day for about 2 or 3 weeks. So that's kind of constantly running. So I first have to like wash it and get it all chopped up to the right size and dry it. And some of the things like pine is a real pain because that you have to, I wash it in these double stains and then put it in there for about 4 hours. And then you take it out again, and then I run it through the blender to chop it up to the size they want, because you can't do that when it's wet. It's not going to chop up nice. And if you wait to the end to do that, it turns to powder. Yeah. So I've made so many mistakes. Like the amount of mistakes I've made the past 5 years is more than I made in the first 45 years of my life. So that will make, so that top, if that top one is full of pine, I can get about 2 glass jars full of dry. So it's a slow, tedious process.
How many hours per week that do you rent? This is, that sounds like maybe fluctuates.
It does. That's a good question. In September and October, I'm here all week. I'm here probably at least 30 hours a week, sometimes more, but I haven't been in here for 2 weeks. Well, I came in here and did a quick fine like last week, but I'm here in the spring. I'm not here very much. There's not much I'm doing. I'll be doing some rhubarb now in the next few weeks because it's all frozen from last year, and I use that in my spring blend because I learned that humans, when they think of like a spring thing in Minnesota, they're not going to wait until the end of June when all of our spring stuff is ready to be harvested and processed. They want it on March 20th. Like, my stores want it, the people want it, they want it. So my spring blend is going to be available starting on the 20th. But so I have to plan ahead, and then that's like renting freezer space here. And
I never thought about drying because it's always around year round.
Right.
And I just think, well, you just go out and get it because we here in Minnesota got lots of pine and you get it in the spring because of winter.
Yeah.
So I never thought of drying.
Yeah. It has to be totally dry for not dry for packaging.
Yes, yeah.
And this is actually the time of year where I actually have an enormous bag of pine from this weekend that we're coming in this week to start trying. This is my favorite time of year to dry pine because, as we were talking about earlier, if you go for a walk anywhere right now, pine boughs are covering the ground. And it's been a rough winter for our trees because of the thaw and freeze and the heavy snow. So there's down branches everywhere. And for me, it's so satisfying to take this down branch and turn it into these beautiful teas. And it's so plentiful right now. And there's nothing else right now other than the rhubarb coming up that I have to process. So this is for the spring seasons when I do. But actually, my up north is my best seller. So I'm doing pine most of the year to keep up with it. But now is when I really try and cut up for at least the first part of the summer.
The drying rhubarb is the thing that kind of, I'm trying to imagine what that's like. And by the way, are you taking orders for May or for March? Drying rhubarb, I'm just trying to imagine that in mind.
Yeah, I can show you because when we go to the warehouse, I'll show you some of my big containers of something because I already have a lot of it blended. So what I do is I double wash the rhubarb and then I put it through this big Roboku machine, which there's lots of crazy machines in here. It's this piece, this big thing here, and it's just an intense chopper. So it chops it really fine, and I have to run it through there probably like 2 or 3 times to get it as fine as I want. And then what's great is it has all the liquid. So DJ, who's another maker in here who has Lost Capital hot sauce, I give him my rhubarb juice and he turns into hot sauce. So it's really great. So then that hot sauce lasts me for a year. He's really, his guy's mango, on the other one. Yeah, he makes really good.
Being a commercial, do you need a permit to harvest pine on the public land or not? How does that work?
You probably would, I only forage on private land. So I have about, so for my pine, I've got actually only like 5 spots where I go. One of them, one of my farmers has a lot of wood, and then the other 4 are just people, friends of mine, or people I know through friends that have big swaths of land, that are doing that you have no idea how far back it stretches. Yeah, so I only do it off private land. And I like to do at least 300 feet away from any sort of road or. Yeah, so the rhubarb we went through a couple times, and then I dehydrate it for probably about 10 hours, and then I toss it with maple syrup. The rhubarb is a real, I mean, it's so stringent. So I have maple syrup from a sugar bush in Wisconsin that I use. And I toss it with that, and then I put it in there for probably another 24 to maybe 36 hours. So most of the syrup evaporates, but it does give enough of a little sweetness kick to make a difference.
How do you make the, I noticed some of your tea ones have flakes.
Yeah.
How do you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I have 2 different, so the relief which we're having tonight has honey nettle. And my Be Well has honey red clover. So what I do with that is that I take the already dried herbs. So if I get them from my farmers already dried, or else if I do the drying here. So I have the dried herbs, and then when they're totally dried, then I will mix them with honey and dry them again. So they lose some of their medicinal value because they're really dried. But I toss it with the honey and dry it again, because the honey, and it's very little honey because you have to have enough surface of the herb where for the honey, I mean, you can't have any sort of, so it's a small amount of honey, but you can really taste the difference. So yeah, but the honey takes a long time to dry, so that's usually more than 6 hours for that to dry. And that is really interesting because you have to dry it for that. I'm in here 2 days in a row for that, because you have to dry it overnight, and then you have to break it up again and then dry it again. Because if you just try to do it once, then you get like a sheet of honey nettle.
So that's the flakes.
So that's the flakes. So the flakes are actually bits of nettle with, or bits of red flakes. Sometimes it felt weird explaining this because it's really so tedious and ridiculous.
Like, you get your inspiration for your blends, and how do you come up with the recipe?
I've been blending teas my whole, and most of my, well, my kind of 4 core blends are blends I've always been making. My up north, my call, my focus, and my Be Well. And then I just, I try to make them balance, like not too warming, not too drying. I try and pull in the seasonal elements to celebrate the tea, and then, they go through 50 makings or iterations before I figure out the ratio that I really, really like. And I put them together for, for their medicinal prowess too. So balancing that out, you want something that's, anyway, so really,
Dry teas.
right, exactly. Yeah. So it's a lot of just playing around and just waiting for their to kind of tell me where they want to go. And
You mentioned also that there are at least 2 things that you can source. That you have to source beyond the 2. What are those, and is it just because people aren't growing them, or is it because of climate?
yeah. So 80% of what I use does come from within about 200 miles, but I leave myself that 20%. So to answer my question first, the only thing that is not from here at all is licorice root. I haven't gotten into my friend who said for
And handsome.
maybe that was right. So that was brought for me. So that's what. So, but also, So I'd love to say I would only use stuff within 200 miles, but the fact is, if I'm gonna be sustainable as a business, I can't tell, you know, the local coffee shop that carries my tea, oh, I won't have Be Well for 6 months because I don't have any more lemon balm, but that's okay, they're gonna find it. So once I have brought my teas to market, I only have, I think it's 13, not all at the same time, but 13. But I cannot bring them to market until I have my sourcing steady and everything worked out, because otherwise I'm not gonna have a business. So there are 2 out-of-state herbal companies that I'll buy from if I have to, and I really love them both. So if I've estimated wrong and run out of peppermint, it's June and I'm not gonna have any until September, peppermint goes in some of my blends, I would be screwed. So, yeah. So Foster Farm, do you guys know Foster Farm Botanicals? That's my, if I have to go outside of here, that's my first go-to source.
Where are they?
They're out of Vermont. The quality of herbs is best. Yeah, so everything I try. These kitchens are great. This kitchen is extremely clean. If anyone, there's a little pine there, don't notice that because I was in earlier and I'll get in after you go. So if anybody's ever looking for commercial kitchen work out of, this is a fantastic spot. Highly recommend. People that work here are lovely and really accommodating. Have very high standards for this kitchen.
Are the prices online on the web, on the branch? Do they have our name?
Probably, yes. So if you're gonna be here, you can't just come in for a one-time thing. You sign a contract. And so I think it's at least 6 months, I think. And the prices are, for your first 10 hours of the month, it's $20 an hour. And then after that, it goes down to $15 an hour. $15 an hour. But you have to every month meet that minimum of 10 hours spent in the kitchen for you get charged for it. So it's definitely not cheap. But that's pretty much, that's kind of the lower end of a lot of going rates around the cities. And that time has to include your time of like setting up in here and cleaning it up. So it goes fast.
You can also store stuff here too. Is that kind of part of it? Because I think sometimes that, if you're just making it home, you kind of like, oh, I didn't have room to put everything.
It is, yeah, you see all my stuff, we go next to the warehouse, all my stuff is stored. You know, that was something I was really grateful to about the kitchen, because it didn't take me from my house. Literally, and my family's like, oh my god, I'm gonna die if I have to like breathe in one more bit of this dust. And it's just something like, I mean, you can't separate your life. But my huge reason that I was so excited to come into commercial kitchen too, and to get that different licensure, is because of the liability. It made me so nervous, because if you are making products out of your home and selling directly, and someone gets sick and decides to sue you, they can take your house. Like, they can suck you for everything you have. Once you have the license they have to work in the commercial kitchen space, you are registered as a business, so they can suck the life out of your business, but they can't touch my house. Right? You know, so just that liability is kind of scary for me. It'd probably be different if I had been like 25 and started, he's like, I don't have anything to lose, whatever, but I'm over 50 and it's hard, it's fun, right? Not gonna lose all those things. So what was that? So storage, yes. Any more kitchen questions before we go to storage?
Do you just say you had to get a specific license to be able to work here, or you need it for like insurance purposes and then you have an LLC?
Yeah, so not the Good Acre specifically, but to work in any commercial kitchen, you have to have your you have to have different licensure in addition to the working from home, the cottage food license. So I have a retail license and I have a wholesale license, and I have another license to sell farmers markets, and a different license for to sell products to be consumed at farmers markets. It's ridiculous the amount of like hoops you have to go through to start a business, and it's really, I mean, not having a business background before I started this, it's it's a lot. I think resources have gotten better in the past couple of years about getting people through that. At the Good Acre, they have to sort of a checklist too of things you have to do.
Those are all like through the state. But
Yeah, and then I get inspected by the state too.
Sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, you want it to be.
Yeah.
To be safe.
Did you say there's a staff that does the cleaning, or do you clean up?
Oh, you clean it after something get behind if it's not. Exactly. There is so you pay, I think $30 a month for collective cleaning supplies. And there is a company that comes in once a month and does a deep clean of the kitchen. Yeah, so in addition to paying for the kitchen space, you pay for storing stuff here. And the most expensive thing is to put stuff in the freezer. It's really expensive. I would say if anyone is thinking of making a product, don't pay. It's expensive and it sucks putting in the freezer. That freezer is so dang cold, and so like the people like trace Fruber oats and out there, and it's like swearing like a storm every time you just go in there. It's so incredibly cold in there. And if your first project is just harder to ship, harder to store, it's harder to sell in the stores because you're behind glass doors. And
So anyone who drinks herbal popsicles.
Sorry. Just trying to help you out for you. So I didn't tell all that.
So how many places are you in?
A little over 30. And that can seem like a lot, but know that some places order like this. So it's not, I need to get in quite a few more to keep it sustainable.
The lines, I go to Whole Foods and other places and see locally made products there. Is that an avenue for you, or is that somehow different?
So the places I do well in are sort of artisan food shop places, and cafes, restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. Because my tea is at a high price point, and I think you know why after listening to the last half hour, right? And so it's not, if it is at the wedge, which I've thought about doing, it's by far the highest price point there. So it's gonna be harder to move. And all of my maker friends I've known, once you get into the grocery stores, you also have to have a distributor. So you can't deliver yourself, so you're paying the distributor. They're taking usually 20%. Yeah, they're taking a healthy percentage. And once you get into the stores, most stores start squeezing the makers very shortly after they're in. So there are makers I know that are losing money by having their product in certain stores because it's that expensive. So I'm choosing to only go with these, like, I know all of my stores and I do little deliveries personally. So I'm going to stay focused on that and online order.
I think after this explanation, I feel like it's one of the best values for a product I've heard.
Yeah.
So you're bringing in stuff to make your teas. Are you bringing big containers and then mixing everything here? I mean, how are you bringing your herbs? Obviously, you have some in the dryers, but
Yeah.
how are you?
Let's go see it.
No, I'm.
How's that? Can you tell if you're in? Okay.
So this is the awesome cavernous warehouse. And all the makers that work here have their stuff stored here. These are 3 huge refrigerators over here. And there's the Eagle freezer right there. And This time of year, these aren't very full. I'll take one. Sorry, I missed another. They're not very full because they get full of fungus. And these are winter fruit. And now it's fruit that can be for a winter. And one of the makers products. They're treaties and one treaty. You can see at that building there, two garages or two garage doors there. Trucks can back up to there for their deliveries. So you're looking at one of my pallets. So when you rent space in here, sorry, you're fine. So when you rent space, you rent it by the pallet. And so I pay $60 a month for each pallet. And 660. Yeah.
How high can you?
I'm pushing it. Yeah. So this is where I obviously store my things, and I track where they came from and the receiving date. So you can see, like, that beautiful mullet.
Where do you get them?
So I have about a dozen different farmers who are growing the pieces for me. This one is from Rhubarb Botanicals, and I don't know if any of you know Emma Barber, but she's outside of my 200 range, and I'm still counting her because she was here. She used to rent farmland out by Hudson and farm there for a long time, but she and her partner have just bought some farm in Iowa, and she just finished her first season, and she rocked it. She made amazing stuff. So this is from her, and I drive down to Mankato to her mom's place to pick up. She brings these to Mankato. So let's bring, so you can see the It smells so good.
Pretty nice.
I just think they're so beautiful. I feel so lucky to be.
Do you have those GMP that you have to records and books
Yeah.
that you have?
Yep, I have a whole.
Or do you have to have those here with you?
I mean, I could have them at home. It's all computerized for me now. It's all Excel spreadsheets. So I have to have them here when I'm inspected. But I bring my computer every time, so I need to make sheets while I'm in vacation.
So what all was in there?
The spring blend, we have the rhubarb, we have lemongrass and lemon thyme and lemon balm and milky oats and yeah. I think I'm forgetting one thing. Oh, and Tulsi. Tulsi and nettle are my favorites.
Do you have, is Tulsi one of the ones that you're able to get from a pretty local farmer? Okay.
I have 4 different farmers who do Tulsi down.
That's what we grew it. We grew it last.
And I use Rama.
Okay.
I use Rama.
Nancy.
You can see they're all, so these are all various amounts of full and various amounts of done. So I have a lot of them are just still at herbs and blend, but then probably, I don't know, at least a third of all of these are the blends already done. So then I have it here, and I think this is well. I know. That's how I make you snow. It's just beautiful.
Well,
Yeah.
And how long did that take?
Well, how long did it take? Especially for, well, because if you're counting doing honey, the honey clover is its own beast to take a long time. But that I'm gonna have to do probably 3 times a year because I do such a big amount. And you can see. Gerard, my friend. So, this is Gerard, my tumbler. I've had Gerard for about 3 years now, and I really love him. So his name's what? Gerard. And so I plug it in, put the herbs in, put this on, and it tumbles. Yes, so it's plugged in, it's, but it doesn't do like, so once Gerard has everything in there, so I would do about 2 of these, 2 to 2.5 would fit in Gerard at a time of the blend. But once Gerard spins it, then I have, this really is so fancy, guys, it's embarrassing. I'll set out on those long tables, I'll set out like 4 different bowls because Gerard doesn't do it to the extent it needs to be done. It needs like some finishing love, hands-on touch. So, you know, everything gloved. And so I will do hand tumbling too before it actually goes. So, yeah, and so, and I also have these boxes here have glass jars because if I'm not going to be using some product for a while or something, I'll store it in glass jars because I prefer to keep things stored in glass out of the light. But I need larger containers sometimes. There's no larger containers, glass that work well. So the stuff I'm going to use up soon as goes in. And these containers I love them because this is 0 waste. Because what I do now in the spring, I have like these companies at the top. At my house, I have a stack of like 30 or 40 of these. And by the end of July, I'll have these almost all gone. And then they just go back to the farmer. So I sanitize and bring it back to the farmer so the farmer can just, you know, tear the container and refill it that way. So there's no plastic bags, no big waste. Not all my farmers do that, but most of them. Then have everything is done in the kitchen. Yeah. So every day I come like about at least 45 minutes before my sheet technically starts to sort of like move everything and get everything. But I mean, I'll only do 1 plant a day. I'm not going to be doing multiple things. So I rather has one thing he wants each time, and then the same text. So these are my bags of tea. Yeah. See what the bags of tea look like. And then I also have for the coffee shops and restaurants and some of the places that sell in bulk, like Terra Market and Dow Foods. I bring their tea to them in meads. So this is another great 0 waste. So you go to Terra, you'll see these at the shelf, and you can take as much tea as you want. And these are magnets. So I know, right? Isn't that fun? So these are also 0 waste. And then my tea bags are compostable. So it's quite a tiny, but it's tea bag. So yes, empty. I just bring them back here and sanitize them, dry them, and do what? No, all loose leaf. Yeah. No pictures. The only thing I do is tea.
Can I ask you about, so whenever I've made products and dabbled into more seasonal herbal collections
Yeah.
for vending events.
Yeah.
the labeling and the packaging is my least favorite part. Because I'm usually making small batch things, so I'm not like, I don't need to order 500 labels, like obviously it would be cheaper. Have you found anyone, one, just a label company that you like that's maybe more environmentally aware? And or somewhere where you could get 20 or 30 or 50 labels of something and not have to wait 500 weeks or whatever?
Yes to one and no to the second. So I have On Point is what does my printing. I like them because they're a local company, so it cuts down on shipping. But they are and they use soy inks. But printing is godly expensive. So I will print off, I mean, I will print off enough that's usually lasts for 2 years. Like I will get thousands of labels at a time so I can afford, but I'm paying thousands and thousands of dollars when I do this. Yes. That's again part of the reason, like I will have stores that say, oh, can you make a blend that's, my store? Just for my store, that's my store's label, or can you make a specialty blend that says this? And it's like, do you have any idea how many thousands of dollars I spend on that simple label? But those are super expensive.
Is that printing done by, do businesses have certain places they can go? Are there certain folks who kind of market to businesses to say you're printing, or is it? I know it's not Minuteman Press or Kinko's, but I mean it's like, where do you?
There's tons that will do it around locally, and you're always getting imported by other ones to come to theirs instead. I will say, if anyone is thinking of starting a business, so when I first started this, I made my own labels online from something I downloaded, and I thought it was great. And I thought it didn't really matter that much because my herbs were so beautiful and they were mixed with so much care and they tasted so good. It was such an incredible product. I thought the label was because it's just going to sell itself. And my friend Thomas, who's a graphic designer, took my hands. Honey, I wish the world worked that way. The money I put into having him design my labels is the best money I've spent since business. I got really cheap because he was a friend, but he's also a professional, so I paid him still a lot of money, but I paid him to design, and he will design the new labels and things for me. But just and stuff you don't think about. Like I've got 4 different fonts on this, and you wouldn't know it. And there's so much shading going on here, and there's fluidity with the color choices. He's a professional, and I would say if anybody's going to make a product, time spent with having a true professional develop your labeling things is just. I mean, I wouldn't be in nearly the product. I still use that. Thank you. I think it is. It's like we worked really hard and lots of iterations, and
My next question is around actually packaging them. Are you weighing out and then you do it? Okay, also my least favorite.
So there's scales in that kitchen, and so I tear it with the weight of the bag, and so just sit and I have 2 people that work part-time with me.
Okay.
I didn't think I really could afford to pay somebody, but when you consider the cost of the kitchen, it really works in my favor to have people come in on the days I'm in here and work with me. So, and I'm going to be looking for more people in this next year. So if you know anybody, but I will say a lot of the people that have come for me and wanted a job, they want a job like coming up with blends and mixing the teas, or maybe going out foraging. And that is all the super fun stuff. Most of my time is spent like I mop the floors in there. I do a courageous amount of dishes. I sit for hours and scoop the tea into that bag and seal the bag. Like it's a lot of monotony and not a lot of like waxing on about nettle and playing around trying different things. I mean, I can wax about nettle for like, but it's a lot of like pretty tedious grunt work that you can do. And filling the bags, like we truly just spend like 7 hours filling bags. Person fills it and seals, and then mix it.
How many people would you comfortably fit in there?
2 others.
Do you put, does your labels already on your bags before you fill them?
No.
You do that after you've,
No, I feel, yeah, so they don't come printed with the labels.
okay,
So I just get compostable bags out of California.
Yep.
And I put the front and the back label on, and then I date stamp them before and seal them. And then that over the top sticker, this over the top stickers, actually, when I started this, I kind of wanted people to be able to see the herbs because they're so beautiful. But as you all know, if you leave it exposed to sunlight over a period of time, it's going to degrade the quality of the herb. So I didn't want to do that. So Thomas came up with a great idea, like, no, we're going to take pictures. And so it's a picture, so that label over the top is a picture of it.
That artist.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol, yeah. Yeah, I haven't spent too much time thinking about those labels, but I don't think they're anything special. I like mine better. Yeah, and I especially love this, these ones because it has a lot of closer to like different.
Now, are you able to do like the labeling part where you're not actually handling the part that's being consumed, like at home?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
sweet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also can do some things at home, like the pine. So like like this weekend, I foraged loads of pine. And then over the next couple of days, I've just been like
Stripping it.
stripping it. I can strip it at home
Yeah.
because then I bring it from them.
Yeah.
So it's not processed. So before I do
Gotcha.
that, I.
Do you still blend the monthly?
I do.
Okay.
And I
so how
really
do you
love
do
that.
with the labeling and.
So that's sort of like my fun release. So I have a tea of the month program that people can do. They sign up for either a 6-month or a 12-month membership. And it's a mid-sized bag, which I don't have any here. And it's not a bag, it's you're getting about half the amount of tea you're getting in these. So it's a smaller amount of tea, about seven or so cups of tea. And the labels I have for that just say special edition, and there's a blank there. And I print out just at home on my printer these clear labels that just have the ingredients that I'll put in there. So every month, that's my little creative endeavor is I make a small amount, and I only have like, I think 35 people right now that do it. And this is like the most I've ever had. It's usually more like around 20 to 25. So it's not that many bags. And that I make with stuff that that's often forage stuff that I just don't have enough. And I would never have enough to bring it to market for something that I can still like get my foraging out and just get smaller amounts of things, or it's things that maybe my farmers are like test growing, like, oh, maybe we'll use this, maybe not, or maybe it's, herbs I want to try and see, or just different blends of herbs I already have that I want to experiment with. Yeah. And those I often will focus on something like for falling asleep, for staying asleep. So I do get a little more, I don't give, all of you guys will know if you read my labels, my teas are very medicinal, but I don't promote them as that, and I don't push it as that. And when people ask me for medical advice, I don't give it to them. My medical advice is always rest, put good things in your body, including lots of plants, surround yourself with people you love. But people want medical, I can't tell you off the farmer's market, like, well, my aunt has cancer and it started in her liver, that's now spread. What tea should she do? Like, you get a ton of that. I get a ton of that. And I don't have, most of you guys know more about herbs. I'm not like, I know about herbs because I've grown up with them and my grandparents had them. And I've read tons of books, and I've never taken a class. I've just grown with it my whole life. So I know you all probably know more of the details of herbs. So I also don't feel like I'm qualified to say, you need this, take X, Y, and Z. But I really stay far away from that. But if you make any herbal product, you'll have people wanting to, and emails and phone calls. And what do I do?
You do farmers markets, there's like a lot of them, let's say some, it's like a full-time job, being at each one, like, different food, everyone.
No, I used to do a couple different ones. The only one I do now is Mill City.
Gotcha.
And I only do that once or twice. And I don't do that from January until May. Maybe I'll do one. I did one February, but that for me, I like doing those markets because it's the Mill City, the people, that's a community that I really love and I've gotten. And it's a great way to get my new product out. I am a super introvert at heart. So the idea of like doing multiple markets a week, that would be cool. Some people thrive on that and love that. Markets are my
Another question about the space. Last time I was here, I am like a native pollinator friendly landscape designer, and Twin Cities Floral Exchange was here.
Yes. Twin Cities Floral Exchange, I don't know if you know it, but it's Christine started it. It's awesome. It's she wholesales and it's only from farmers who don't spray or don't use any pesticides or insecticides or anything on their flowers. And just like with any organic product, it's a whole lot more expensive to grow that way, right? But she was out here, and I used to actually get some of my flowers, my bachelor buttons and my calendula and things from her. She used to wholesale out of here, but now she has her own sort of permanent space.
Okay.
That's on something with a W over Northeast.
Okay.
If you send me an email,
And is she still under the same name?
no, she just changed her name.
That's what I thought.
And if you send me an email, I will send you. Okay, I don't know what's her name, but yeah, it's a great.
I was like, wait, I think she's 15. But I would always come in from there. So
Right. Yeah, and it'd be so beautiful. Once a week, all the flowers would be in here, and I love working those days. It smells so good. It's overflowing with beauty. Well, we can head back to a classroom where it's a little warmer again. No other way to move through the world, right?
Where do you find more information on like what, that you would need if you were ever interested in wanting to do retail or just, opening up, making your own blends and just selling it to instead of, because I know it will still fall under cottage locks if you're having it in a space.
Right. Well, if you are selling it directly to consumer, wherever it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you can't have a third party selling.
Gotcha. So if you were selling it yourself,
Right.
that would still fall under the cottage.
Yep, as long as they're buying directly from you.
There's a limit on amount of money.
Yeah, there is. It's hard to reach it. Though. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
what it is.
Last year's.
Like $1,000. I don't remember. Just higher, There's a certain, probably not, check that out.
Any other questions?
Almost question. How can we help? I mean, when it's like buying, online submission, we have this people about in our lives, and certainly talking about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Do you have a wish list for what you still need or what you could take to the next step? What would be in like?
Oh, I mean, I'm really lucky when I have a great next step that I would tell you about. I think just spreading the word about not just me but about all, as I'm trying to do, like support people that are doing the right thing, support people that are using local organic products. Support people that are buying from local farmers. It's not just me, it's lots of people. It's you betcha for mention. I mean, there's lots of local people. So I think just if we all do a little part to sort of move the world in the right direction. Years ago, one of my past lives, I used to work at the Minneapolis Crisis Nursery as the volunteer director there. such a tangent. But, my boss I worked for, I remember one time talking with her, I'd recently come back from the Peace Corps, and I was overwhelmed with sort of the state of the world and with consumerism and with it's, you know, just the hard readjustment, right? And I remember being in office and just like sobbing over all these wrongs in the world. She said, what you need to do is you need to pick a corner and you need to clean up the corner. You can't try and do everything and have your finger everywhere. Just, you know, make space for joy and for love and for pleasure and find your little corner and clean the corner. So I think, you know, so for me, that's part of what this business is, picking my corner and cleaning my corner. And part of it too is for all of us is buying those products that are shifting in the right direction. I'm really lucky right now because I just okay, I'm not supposed to say this out loud yet, but I applied to a program that's going to really help me get to the next level, and I couldn't be more thrilled about it. It's a program that's going to give me a mentor and connect me with all sorts of advertising and legal and marketing, all sorts of professionals in the field. So I'm thrilled. Because if I didn't have that, I've been hoping for this thing for a long time. And if I hadn't gotten that, I think I'd just be, because I'm at the point where I started this on a shoestring and it's been making a profit for years, but it's not making quite enough for me to sustain. Luckily, I mean, I'm, like I said, I'm 52 years old and I've worked and I've, but I couldn't be doing this now if I had started when I was 22. So it's at the point where it does need to grow, and I think it's going to. So, just keep buying it and tell your friends to buy it. Yes. I know it will be at the end of March that I can announce. Okay. Yeah.
Rachel, you didn't even mention like the fire that you had a few years ago that like burned a bunch of your inventory. I was just like, she doesn't mean that. No, and so it's like I see if you're this Phoenix, like it's not that
Absolutely. I had, COVID was awful 2020, and I had in December of 2020, I had expired, and it ruined my house, and a lot of my products at that point was in my house, and all of my labeling and boxes and all my supplies. So my business shut down for a while. So between coming out of COVID and losing everything you have in a fire, and I've also gotten divorced. So it's been a real intense couple years. But I have risen. There's still ways to go, but it's
It's so inspiring. So I thought like figure out my questions, but I'm not an entrepreneur. I have no interest in starting a business. I just really admire people who are able to do these types of things. So that's my interest in asking questions. Also, just very energizing to hear your story. And it's like loving your work to the skill and skill. Not a thing you have to know. The experience you have to get the stages that are absolutely.
I mean, I did know what I was going to do. If you don't have a business background, it's like, I wish I was just like walking through the woods all day, throwing something to the bag and selling. But just all the dishwashing, all the paperwork right now, looking at my taxes, there are so many businesses behind it. But knowing that like getting to do a career that allows me to live in line with my values is so satisfying. It allows me to put my kids first. Is so satisfying, and that I can help not help all these farmers, but just work in partnership with these farmers. It's worth it. It's really good.
the good always love that.
Right. It is.
It's because I like to keep it real.
Yeah.
What's your least favorite part?
Right now I'm doing my taxes and I'm awful at I put off that sort of bookkeeping pieces. I can do it all but that's just really boring to me. It's not interesting. I don't super love hate with social media. Sometimes it's really fun. posting and sharing. If you have a business, you have to get social. You're totally shooting yourself, but that can get to be a burden at times too. I hate mopping. Mopping the floor, it's gross, and like dumping out the mopping, and always end up like, because this really weird sink and poured into you, I just get some like on your shoes, and you're just like gross. Yeah, but, I get tired of the hauling, like all the. It's a lot of stuff you're kind of like schlepping around everywhere and just. So there are lots of things I can line up for sure. Any other questions? Thank you guys all for coming tonight. Thank you.
So much fun.
Good. It's fun to do. It's fun to get to show off the awesome space here and talk and yeah. It's
Good for us to see too, because sometimes we do think like, oh, I just have the like, why don't I just sell it? That's for people like, this is really good tea, you should sell it, and like, oh, you have no idea. But yeah. When we farm and you talk about farming, you think, oh, farming, how beautiful, but it's like. Yeah, and that was, it was really cool to hear. That farm, it's one of those, maybe they're gonna come on camp. Yeah.
I guess I could think like square view, so it has to be cash or I guess I could put it on my phone. I don't.
You have a little bit, you know. How am I gonna-
What's that?
Yes, yes.
That would help.
Erica,
Yeah.
how, like, Erica,